Royce, you're the only one. What's up with that?
I don't know. Oh, there's everybody. Okay, good.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
All right. That was weird. Welcome to the Alternative Football Panel. I'll be your host this week, XFL Mike G. And as always, our producer, Rick 8-Bit. Wave to the people, Rick. All right. And Royce, a.k.a. Viking Wax. How you doing, Royce?
Doing great.
All right. You guys ready to jump into this? Or are we going to talk about UFL football again? I mean, I love the UFL season. It's so pure and concentrated. Every game means something. I don't want to get into playoff implications yet. Do any of you guys have any topics you want to talk about this week?
I'll go. I thought it was an absolutely crazy week. We had the Spring King in St. Louis make his debut and definitely elevated the Battlehawks. Then you had an upset that I'm pretty sure almost nobody expected in DC. And then you had an overtime thriller in Birmingham. And then the last game went down the wire, too. I mean, so it was an absolutely crazy week. Definitely kept you on the edge of the seat.
Yeah.
And, of course, the shocking games continue, the trap games, the cheese games that Rick likes to talk about. Do we want to jump into this yet, or you need some time, guys? What do you think?
I say let's jump into it.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Let's jump into it then. Game 1, Friday night, Columbus, St. Louis. What are your takes on that? Royce, you cover St. Louis for us. What are your takes on this?
It was just great to see Luis Perez back on the field again. To me, he didn't have a great game, but he had a much better game than we'd been seeing out of St. Louis. So that was refreshing. And you could see that he was a little rusty, but I think he's going to knock that rust off and be right back in the swing of things. I mean, honestly, with the weapons he has, and you saw one pass that he did to Butler was so good, and they were mugging Butler on every play too. So he tried a few other ones, but they had him wrapped up and stuff. So I think if he can get Butler out on those long bombs and even just Pearson on some short routes and they have so many good receivers that it's going to be fun to watch that team just start speeding up. And it made the really Aviators look pretty bad, although it was really their Aviators run defense that hurt them because they couldn't stop the run either. So especially at the goal line, that's where they just couldn't stop. Once they got into the red zone, then the Battlehawks turned into a run team and just stuffed it down into the end zone. So pretty fun stuff, man. It was a cool game. I felt bad for the Aviators because they had done so good to get to the bubble of making the playoffs, and now it looks like it's going to be a real challenge for them to get there. So anyway, it was a fun game, I thought, though, especially for Battlehawks fans.
You know,
I'll go
and
next if I can. I thought it was
sure, go ahead,
crazy
Rick.
that Luis Perez's first touchdown will be a running play.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he did a QB sneak and made it in, and kind of over the top, like Walter Payton style. It was crazy. So.
No, and Royce, you kind of mentioned something earlier I want to come back to. With these bigger players, these bigger receivers, smaller corners are going to have to be more physical with them, and it's kind of allowed because of their size. How do you ref that? Do you let them play it out because he is bigger, so he should be able to fight them off, or do you call it? Because it's tricky. You know, he's bigger, so he's got the advantage, so he might not get the calls. What are you guys thinking?
I thought it was robbery. I think there were at least 3 calls that they should have called that Butler would have been open on, and he was basically being wrapped up. And it makes me mad because just because he's tall, just because he's good, doesn't mean you need to knock him down by not penalizing the guys for actually causing penalties. It doesn't make sense to me. So I think they need to tighten that up when Butler's out there and call it when it's due, you know. That's my thoughts.
Definitely, and it's one of those. Do we adjust the rules because he is bigger? Or I mean, it's not an official thing. It's just a ref's opinion of the play. Yeah. But it was something that as I was watching the game, I'm like, what do you do? He's huge. You have to be physical with him. You have to get in his face. You have to make him uncomfortable. But you got to call it too. you know, and it shouldn't be an automatic penalty, but there's got to be something that's got to be done about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I was a defender, I'd be doing the same thing because you really have no leverage against him. So you've got to hold and pull and grab where you can just to slow him down.
Yeah, definitely. So, and we're kind of beating around the bush, but Luis Perez, with his debut in St. Louis that we all were clamoring for. I know Royce was, I know I was. There was fans were kind of like 50-50. They were like, let's give Frost a chance. Let's give him a chance. But, as I said last week, what you're doing is you're risking a game, and every game means everything. So starting him this week was the right choice, and he looked really, really good, with the exception of maybe a couple of plays. But he is rusty. This was his first game this year, and he's still getting acclimated to these guys. Now, of course, he'll pick up the offense very well, very quickly. But, he had a little rust on him.
Yeah, I think he'll knock it off. I did make a prediction before he started last week that by the end of the season, he will be in the top 3 quarterbacks as far as passing yards. We'll see if that actually happens, but
oh, wow.
I would be amazed. After just 3 games in the season to be top 3 would be cool, but I don't know if we'll get there.
I think as of last week, I think Bean was still in the top 5. So, I mean, I think you definitely have a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a lot of QBs coming in and out of the lineups this year. It's been interesting to watch for sure. Especially
I mean, and going back to the first episode, we talked about, quarterbacks and situations and roles and things of that nature. My biggest gripe with the UFL when it comes to play, actual terms of games, is lack of a preseason. And I looked into a little bit based on the salaries that they have to play, bigger roster and things of that nature. A week of training camp runs about $1 million, and that's just for salaries, and that's not including the auxiliaries, the staff, housing and all that stuff. But it's something that the UFL and Mike Rapoli, if he's going to spend the money, he should definitely look into. Have another just 1 week preseason will make the world of difference in these games down the road.
Agreed.
All right, guys, if you're ready to move on, game 2, Louisville at DC, or with against DC. Wow, this one was a shocker. Rick, what are your thoughts on Louisville taking it to DC?
It's funny. Louisville keeps breaking my heart where it's like I want to take them and they burned me. So I'm like, all right, this week, I'll have to switch it up, and unfortunately, then I get burned again.
Yeah.
But what the Marcus said about
it's
Perez,
interesting.
100%.
Yeah, I agree. Good point. So I watched Zom's show, and he was spot on with basically Louisville when they're a big underdog, like more than 7 points. That's when they show up. If they're not a big underdog, they don't. So it was interesting to see how much they kind of take that personally. So, but honestly, I think it's more DC, and this is the cheese game. This is the trap game where they just thought they were going to win, and they didn't really give. If you look, especially the second half, they just kind of laid down and let the game just roll over them. And I think they expected to win, and they expected to come back. I kind of expected them to come back even. I thought, oh, they're going to turn it on at some point, right? And then they never did. They just couldn't. They were too far down at that point. So I think they had that feeling that, oh, we can make a comeback, and it was too late. So
I will throw this out. If you look how everything is shaped, I mean, they're 5-2, along with the Storm, along with the Battlehawks. They can get in the playoffs. They still can get a home game, and the championship game is in their backyard. So you still basically have home field advantage. So maybe they felt, hey, we're playing Louisville next week. Let's not show all of our cards now. They got it up on us. All right, we'll take our foot off the gas, and we might be able to go like this. And the Marcus brings up a good point. Louisville at home, they have a great stadium. They have that crowd. And unfortunately, their fans leave, brokenhearted, and they go on the road. Personally, I think it's just the jerseys, because the gray jerseys are way better than their home. But they definitely brought it. To me, though, the play of the game, that 81-yard bomb Tiamu to Antonio. I thought that was fantastic.
Awesome.
But it definitely looked like they had that edge, and then Louisville and Louisville. I think we all sleep on their defense. I think their defense is fantastic. I think it's always been their offense that hasn't really clicked. Like the game they had the 4 touchdowns, they were clicking. Their defense has backed them up. They finally have the offense to back them up. So it like I said before, it's Jackal and Dr. Hyde. Which Louisville team showing up? Because if that offense is on, I think they could scare anyone. I think if their offense, forgets to hold on to the ball and coughs it up a couple times, I think their defense is good, but I don't think it could win it as many games.
Do you guys think this is the wake-up call that DC needs to be able to just keep their foot on the gas next game?
Oh, I think Harris will have them in line, ready to go. And it kind of goes back to the point that I was talking about earlier about the preseason. In that additional week or 2 of preseason or camp, it gives you more time to instill your culture, to remind the guys of the little things that we don't do that here. We've seen a lot of chippiness in some of these games that was a product of the game itself, not necessarily exterior factors. And to me, that kind of screams, I've got to create drama as motivation. And when you do that, you risk losing that emotion, and it's a huge letdown. When I coach, I try not to let my teams get too emotional, especially before the game. There's a lot of rah-rah and stuff going on, but that emotion, it fades. So you got to get these guys to say, hey, we don't do that here. Keep your emotions in check. Keep playing. And I think that's a problem DC has, and a couple of other teams, and I'll mention them when we get to them. But DC, if they feel like they can turn it on and off when they need to, that is a recipe for a disaster, especially if they start thinking, oh, we've got this in the bag. We're about to clinch. We got playoffs at home, possibly even the championship game. If they think it's going to be a cakewalk, they're taking it for granted. And that could be the ultimate trap game.
Yeah.
Oh, and also look at complacency. I mean, they're the only team that's had returned their coach, their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. I hate to say this, but sometimes you got to shake it up a little. And if you're complacent, you're not going to go far because I got this. Like you guys are saying, this is their wake up call. This was, you just lost at home, and it wasn't a close game. I mean, 30-13.
Yeah.
That's a couple touchdowns. So I think this was their wake-up call, and the fact that they turn around and now go to Louisville, I think this what might make DC dangerous, because now it's like, all right, you gave it to us on our home field, we got you now.
And they love to play the underdog too, so I think they will. I think they're going to blow them out. But the cool thing is, like after Chandler Rogers got hit by Derek Roberson and took that big blindside hit, it wasn't a cheap hit. It was just a blindside. I mean, I don't think it was cheap. Do you think it was cheap?
I watched the replay. He led with the crown of his helmet into the jaw of the runner from behind. To me, that is the dirtiest of dirty shots. That's more like a sucker punch, and that's dangerous.
On the angle, he was already going down, and he just was heading that way. I don't know. I thought it was a clean hit, but I can see where you're coming from. And it was definitely Roberson hits hard, man. It was a blast. But I think Louisville took it personally and like rallied around that hit, and then just kept their foot on the gas from then on. So
definitely, yeah, that definitely served as motivation. That was their wake up call. Again, relying on emotions to get you through the game. But when we were talking about Louisville's record on the road, now they're going to DC. How does that play into it? Do you think that'll have any factors?
This might actually give them extra motivation. The championship games in DC, we just won at Audi Field. Like, to me, if that happened to me on a team, it's like, all right, we got this now. We got our offense clicking. Our defense has been rolling all season, and we just went on the defending champs home field where the championship game is. And if you look at their schedule too, I mean, I'm not saying it's a cakewalk, but it definitely gives them a chance now to really, really make some noise.
For sure, for sure.
As somebody who covered the Showboats last year, I connect with so many of those guys on the defensive side of things that came back to play for the Kings that I kind of liked seeing them play, like Steel Chambers and they have really about 7 or 8 guys on that defense that came over from the Showboats that are just, for me, they're fun to watch because I just loved watching them last year. And they're really under they're not well known, but they're really solid players. So get to know some of the guys on the Kings defense. They're pretty fun.
Definitely, for sure. Okay. Game number 3. I missed the first half of this game, so I'm going to rely on you guys a little bit. Dallas and Birmingham. Birmingham with the upset, 21-17. Again, this was, to me, you know what? I'm going to let you guys go before I throw my opinions on there.
I thought Reed started out the game okay. To me, it was a little bit. I liked that Birmingham put together 2 wins in a row, but I think Austin Reed started out the game okay, but he doesn't have the consistency there yet, and I think he just needs more coaching. And I think Neuheisel's doing good with him, but it's almost too late in the season now to see it be effective. Hopefully they can keep that core intact for next season, because I think as he grows and develops that relationship with Neuheisel, it'll improve him and his skills at being able to, okay, I can hit the short pass here. I don't have to go for the bomb, those kind of things that he's kind of trying to be hero when he doesn't need to be. But in a way, it was cool. I loved seeing David Davis get his first TD catch of this season, and Mickens had an amazing game. So pretty cool game overall. What do you think, Rick?
I would say I wouldn't even say it's an upset, because the way Dallas has been with the standings and everything. I mean, they were trending down, so I mean, I wouldn't say it's an upset. An upset is what Louisville did to DC. But I would say that I do question when it goes to overtime. You have your shorter quarterback trying to do a QB sneak. I don't know. And even, I mean, they were doing the replay and they're like, we can't tell enough if he's down. I think if you had it the other way, you have your quarterback who's got a little more beef to him. I think he's in. I think it's a different story, but that set that up. And then with the way these rules go for overtime, I mean, all it took was, all right, we stopped them once, we're up 1. We just needed 1 more. And DTR definitely, I mean, he used his legs and scrambled and got that in. And that was it. I mean, it's been night and day with him as quarterback, because he gives the Stallions a different swagger they didn't have. And I'm not going to solely say it's him that's making them win lately, but he started their 2-0. You could draw your own conclusions, but to me, he's definitely was the right person they traded for, the right quarterback. And I definitely think the way everything's going, I mean, who would have thought that 2 weeks ago, the way Birmingham was trending, they'd be on the cusp of the playoffs?
What I see as the difference, as the difference between the Stallions now and the Stallions when they had Corral, is that DTR has leadership. He gets the team behind him and with him and going at that same speed as him, where I think Corral relied on his talent but didn't encourage and didn't get everybody rallied together and didn't get everybody on the same page. I think it was leadership. I really do. I think DTR's leadership has made the difference.
Yeah, and great points, guys. And it brings me to some other points that are going to touch on some of the things that you guys have said. Rick didn't want to say that DTR is carrying the Stallions. I'll say it. He is saving AJ McCarron's job. Yeah. If it weren't for DTR, they'd be calling for AJ's head. The Twitter page, fire AJ McCarron would be going wild. It's like I said last week, it's the best and worst thing that could have happened to the Stallions. They'll be successful, but they'll be stuck with AJ when DTR ascends back into the NFL. Another point, and I could hear DeMarcus figuratively screaming at the TV, run the ball. And he and I talked about this last night a little bit. We chatted a bit because he wasn't going to be on tonight about the play calling to finish that game for Dallas. What was that? That was Oh my goodness. I mean, I've called games. I've been in games. I've been involved in games, and it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of action-packed stuff going on quickly. But that was too frenetic. That was too chaotic. That was. What are your thoughts on on the way the game finished, guys?
Yeah, it looked rough. I agree. I think DeMarcus had it like that was the time to really just be more methodical and run the ball. So yeah. Rick, how about you?
Honestly, from what I saw of it, I feel like they're putting too much into Reed's hands. And then when, like I said, they have a chance to go for it, and they use their smaller quarterback at the goal line. So it's like you got to pick your spots. If Reed's your guy, you're going to put in his hands. Let him do the sneak. Let him do this. But don't be picky, because I hate to say this, your season's falling apart. You're trending down pretty quickly. It's an 8-team league. There's 3 weeks left. Unfortunately, if you feel like he's your guy, just go with it, and don't question yourself, because that's the only way you're gonna get into these playoffs.
I like DeMarcus's
Yeah,
point.
and I hate to. Oh yeah, let's talk about that, because I think Reed has the yips. He can't get out of his own head. It's affecting his confidence. He also seems frustrated when he and Mazzone are going over previous drives, and that's a great point. I don't want to put too fine a point on it, and the UFL keeps, because they need their stories. If you're not familiar with his story, and most of us are by now, his wife had twin daughters about 2 months premature, just a little short of 2 months premature. So they're in the NICU, they're in the hospital currently, and the parents aren't staying with them. So they have to daily, go visit them. And that'll take a wear on you mentally, physically, besides being a professional football player, just having newborns, much less twins, much less preemies, I don't know how much that factors in if he's able to compartmentalize that. And I don't want to blame it on that. But he seems in general that he's a high revving kind of guy, and that he's going to have to learn how to rein it in. And maybe he's not getting along with Mazzone, but he's going to have to learn it, whether he stays in the UFL or he moves on to the next level. And that may be one of the things that led to his release. Personalities can also affect your team. One of the points that I was going to make earlier when Royce was talking about it, there are field generals and there are quarterbacks. And you can see the difference with a field general who is leading his team. He's aware of down and distance and time on the clock, what we want to do here, what we want to do there, versus someone who calls the play. I'm supposed to throw it here. I threw it here. He wasn't ready for it. So next play. There is a difference. It's like having experience playing street ball versus just learning how to do it, via YouTube or something. And I shouldn't say that because that's how Luis Perez did it. But you know what I mean. There are products.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Perez
Royce.
had poise. That's what
Yes.
Reed is lacking poise. He has zero poise. So I think that's something that they are missing big time, because they had it. They had it last year. They had somebody who had. Go ahead, Rick.
You guys bring it up. I mean, I got 2 kids. I could definitely tell you, when they first come into the world, you are running around like crazy. You're barely sleeping. I mean, and I could only imagine now having to suit up and play football. Everything's stationed in Arlington, but then you have to get on a flight, go here. If you're already exhausted, now try jumping time zones. Think of that. Yeah. It's not like everything's just strictly in Arlington and Dallas. I mean, granted, it's not much, but you got to fly here. Your body's taking a beating, and you might only be on 2 or 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah, and I feel like that's already a part of his personality, and it's kind of exacerbated by what's going on. Difficulties at work, and you've got 2 young premature babies and a wife to take care of. But I don't want to harp on it too much. We're not trying to delve too much into their personal lives. So let's move on to the final game. Orlando taking it barely from Houston. This was an interesting game in the fact that it was this close. Houston had some moments. Rick, what do you think about Orlando and where they're headed?
I feel like they're the other Jekyll and Hyde team of this league because they look so strong, but if you look at all their wins, I mean 5-2, but you're squeaking by teams that you should be beating pretty hard, and then you have games it's questionable. It goes back to what I said last week about Beck. Like, I feel like it's one of those things where he could get you there, but I don't know if he could get you fully. I mean, they showed up. Plummer was great in this, but I mean, Houston is kind of the bottom of the league. This was their chance to show dominance and say, "Hey, listen, we know we're going through stuff. We're fixing and adjusting on the fly." But to squeak out by one, and it was a missed field goal. I mean, granted, 64 yard. I mean, I barely could kick a 10-yard one, but 64 yards. That was the difference of them. So who knows? Maybe they got farther up and everything, but to only go into Houston and only walk out with one, it's looking interesting for Orlando. I could say that. I think the fans are starting to sweat a little extra, and we'll see.
Yeah, and if you remember the broadcast, they asked him, "Where do you feel comfortable at?" Oh, he's like 53, 54 yards. 64 yards, he's going to put everything he's got into it just to get it there. Mm-hmm. So that throws accuracy right out the window. And you've got to kick it on a certain trajectory to try to get it there, which leaves it susceptible to being blocked. Yeah. But that was one of those games that kind of ended kind of funky. It's I don't know. It was an interesting series.
100%. What's that? Orlando, I mean, didn't they sack the quarterback to push them that even deeper? So their defense, what saved them right there. It definitely wasn't their offense that helped them.
Yep. And Houston playing musical chairs with quarterbacks again. Go ahead, Royce.
I was going to say, how much do you think that the Heat really seemed to affect the Storm? I think they would have probably put up at least another 7 on the board had they had some shade, just because they were all exhausted and you could see it on their body like language, and they were just drained. So I think Houston's got a real home field advantage there because they're all in the shade, and then the opposing team's all in the sun. So,
hey, I hate to tell you this, but Orlando still has one home game.
Oh.
If the Heat's bugging them now, I don't know.
and about that, when that came on TV, I was like, what do you expect the refs to do about that? They're gonna call a penalty on Houston for having too much shade. Yeah, too much shade on the sideline, 15-yard penalty. It's not his first game. Everybody who knows football knows hot heat. It's going to be hot and unbearable out there. At least they weren't wearing dark jerseys. Mm-hmm. If they were wearing those dark purple jerseys, that would have been a true nightmare. So Beck's kind of complaining. It's like, what do you want us to do about it? That's just my thoughts on it. That was my first reaction on that.
No, but I think it made him look flat.
He played in a dome.
Yeah, he is spoiled. But I think it made them look flat. That was my point. Not that they had any right to complain, because that's football, and especially in Texas, like, you're going to have to deal with that. But I think it definitely made them look flat. And I think you're right, though, Orlando's not going to be too much better, but hopefully they'll be a little more shaded. But it just made them look stagnant.
If you're trying to look for a positive out of that situation, if they see how the Heat is and everything, Beck is, I'm not going to say of Rapoli's right-hand man, but with coaches and everything, I don't know if he's close to him, but he could start nudging, hey, listen, the stadiums you have are kind of hot this time of year. This might be the extra incentive he needs to push back. Because I know he said that he is starting to think, he is debating about starting the season earlier. I know he said that on Pat McAfee's show a couple weeks ago. So who knows? Maybe if enough coaches complain about the heat in the stadiums, maybe then we do get bumped right around the Super Bowl. You never know.
Yeah, and on that note, I think before we get a schedule that moves it, because I know he wants to move it up, and he talked about that. I think before we get a move up closer to the Super Bowl, I think we'll get better time slots, because the ratings are starting to come in, and all of these games are doing very, very well, with the exception of a couple of anomalies here and there. With those better ratings, they are able to go to the league and say, hey, we want better time slots. These kickoff times aren't arbitrary to the UFL. They're not like, you know what, we'll just kick off at 10 o'clock in the morning. We don't care. It's where they're going to have time slots available to show these games to maximize the audience. So that's what I want to see first is better time slots. So if some of these games are played at night or when it's a bit cooler, utilize that one dome that you have while you have that dome. Get some of these earlier games maybe in St. Louis as opposed to maybe night games. But what I was talking about earlier, and we had kind of talked about it a little bit, the gamblers with the musical chairs at quarterback. So they released Sam Castronova. They signed John Rice Plummer or Reese Plummer. I always want to say Reese. What's that?
John
Plumley.
Rice.
There you go. There you go. I always mess up that name because I've got a cousin with the same name, and it kind of throws me off. But anyway, so there. Decker was in. He played okay. He didn't. He had moments where he did what he needed to do. When Plumlee came in, he did what he needed to do. But also, he could be familiar with the offense, but he was still a bit rusty because he hadn't played in a minute as well. So, and he's got to build timing and rapport with these receivers. And again, when we talked about when Diego Pavia was being bandied about joining in the UFL, when these quarterbacks join so late, there's really no benefit to that. Guys, what are your thoughts about musical chairs in Houston? And I want to say one more piece on Houston before we move on.
I think that it was tough because honestly, I think Deckers did good to start the game. And he did throw the pick six, but overall, I think he had a consistent movement of the ball that we really haven't seen out of Houston all year. And I actually appreciated it and thought he kind of changed that game for them. And then, he didn't do great. So they tried Plumlee, and Plumlee actually looked pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised if they go with Plumlee for the rest of the year. But then again, Deckers knows the offense better, so they might stick with him. I guess it all depends on who knows that coaching system there. I don't trust it. So they'll probably do the opposite of what I would do. But I think they've got a couple good pieces for the future. I think both of them are better than Henderson or Tagliavoa were. So I can see Deckers being pretty good if he cleans up a couple things.
Personally, Mike, I'm not a fan of this carousel. It's an 8-team league. It's a 10-week schedule.
Yeah,
and we talked about there's a difference between having quarterbacks who lead and there's quarterbacks who are just quarterbacks. And I think in this league, if you after 2 games, if you don't have a leader, you got to find someone quick because they're lucky and because of the way standings are 2-5, they're still kind of in it. But if they lose this week, makes you wonder: are they now with the last 2 games? Are they just going to figure out who's their quarterback for next season and go from there? That's the question now, because they have their backs up are against the wall. They're playing probably with the hottest team right now that made the biggest quarterback adjustment a team could make with Perez. So now you're literally in the spot where it's like, hey, this is it. This is their Unitable.
And the crazy thing is, in the UFL, you can't bank on the fact that, okay, I think I have my guy for next year and figure that out in week 9 or 10 because he could be moving on. You just don't know. It's really just a crapshoot at that point. So you can hope all you want, but you may not be able to get him back.
Exactly. Now, to kind of put a fine point on that, Joker Wild, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. That's the new persona of Rig Rocker, who is a super fan. He was the one in Houston who had the hockey mask that was painted in roughneck colors, and he's changed his persona to Joker Wild. But he's also a huge football fan, and he's very into football. And he put out a post on Facebook today that was very in depth about the offensive coordinator and how. And he laid it out. He laid out a case. If this was a court of law, the guy would be indicted and fired already. But he broke it down. Something like his record as an OC is like 8-19. He each has listed paragraph, like 3 or 4 paragraphs of facts and stats about maybe it's time to move on from him and some of these decision making. He's helping Kevin Sumlin make these decisions about what's going on with Houston. But it's a good little post, and I'll share it on our Facebook Alternative Football panel page before we move. So I am ready to move on to Royce's stamp of approval if Royce is ready to move on.
Ready.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so these are the custom-made player of the game cards I make each week for the games. So the St. Louis game, Jordan Mosley got that one, and Jordan Mosley had a really solid game, and I'm pulling up the stats on the side so I can check it out. So Jordan Mosley on defense, he had 7 tackles, half a sack, an interception, and a breakup. And that pick that he got was amazing. So he was really all over the field again. This is the second time this season I've given him player of the game, and he's earned it. He's just a phenomenal player for them. He's their strong safety, and he kind of anchors that whole defense especially on the passing game. So then we're moving on to Isaiah Winstead. He had a great game for they actually had a few guys on that team. That was a tough one to pick because they had a few guys, but Winstead had 4 catches, 62 yards, and a long of 32, and that 32-yard catch was just awesome. So he's just really good. To me, he's like Butler Jr., like Hakeem Butler Jr. He's really tall and can get passes, just super high passes. So he's fun to watch. I like watching him. They had a couple other guys, even though that did really good. Like Ian Wheeler had 64 yards on the ground. James Robinson had 58 yards on the ground. They had a good mix of pass and run. So I think that balance is kind of cool to see out of Louisville because they haven't really got that too much all season. So that was nice to see.
Before we move on, though, I want to note this real quick. I really like that Winstead card. That looks gorgeous, Royce. That is incredible. Keep up the good work. So, okay, let's move on.
Cool. Okay, now for the Stallions, we had Mickens. He had an amazing game for them. He not only caught the game winner, that extra point at the end of the game, but he had, let's see here. Sorry, I'm switching back and forth. So he had 6 catches, 82 yards, a TD, and that was on 7 targets. So 6 out of 7. And then that game winner in overtime that was kind of basically clinched the game. So phenomenal game out of him. I think this is the second time, because game 1 against the Kings in that overtime game, I gave him the player of the game for that one too. So that's the second time he's won it this year. He's just really, I think, he has the most receiving yards in the league so far this year. So he is well deserving of it. And then for the Gamblers, so this is a crazy game. I gave it to the losing team because I couldn't find anybody for Orlando who stood out. But to me, Hunter Deckers looked in that offense more consistent than I'd seen them all year. And consistency is something that they had lacked. So I liked what I saw out of him. Was he phenomenal? No. Was he great? Is he even worthy of starting again? I don't know. But I thought when he was in and playing, especially in that first half, he looked more consistent than I'd seen all year. So, and he had a pretty good game statistically too. Let's see if I can share those. He had 24 out of 41, not a great completion rate, but 268 yards is nice. So he had a lot of yards in the air. I don't know. What do you guys think about him? That was a tough one to call because nobody in that game earned it.
And when you picked the, it reminded me of the Super Bowl. You know, was it Chuck Howley, the Super Bowl MVP of the team that actually lost that one year, the Dallas Cowboys. So it reminded me of that. But honestly, I can't stop staring at that Deckers card. That looks so good, Royce. That looks incredible. Another great card.
Thanks, man. All right.
All right. So are we ready to move on? What do we got coming on next here, guys?
That should be. Our Friday night game.
Friday night. Friday night's always been a vibe, and this one looks to be one of the best games of the year on paper. if we were in week maybe 1 or 2, but now that we're in week 8, guys, what are your impressions on this game? Give me your thoughts first.
Well, I want to continue a point you said too about continuing times and everything. Friday night has been consistent. It's Friday night. It's 8 o'clock. So that's the only week or day of the week we have a Friday. It's always 8 o'clock, which is great because you could turn in. You know what to expect. Unlike a Saturday game where it's like, oh, is it 1 o'clock? Do I have to set my alarm to be up at 11:30? So this is good, and I think by having more matchups, if they're able, this league's not going to flex matchups, but to have a matchup like this on a Friday night late in the season, this is huge. And it's crazy because you have the Storm, who are kind of more like a light little rain cloud, not a massive thunderstorm right now. And you're going in to play the Renegades, who are, their horse is starting to fade. So this is huge because I'm not going to say whoever wins this gets in the playoffs, but whoever loses really might be out of luck. You might want to add a little extra words to that, but it's going to be tough to recap. And I feel like the Renegades, it's at home, and it's a Storm or maybe too hot. It's a night game. It might help with them. I'm hoping the Storm can actually show up, but I feel like the Renegades are due for a rebound game. This is home, and if this was ever a shot, I think it's now for the Renegades.
I picked the Renegades to win too, and it's hard to explain why because they've lost 4 in a row. But I do think they're ready and they're due for a win. I think Neuheisel is a good enough coach; he can get them to listen. And not that Beck isn't a good coach either, but I think it's tough because neither one of these teams have showed me much in the last 2 weeks. That I had trouble with this one, but I give it to the home team. I give it to the team that I think they could turn it around. They've got the weapons there, I believe, but they haven't used them the way they need to all year. And I think a lot of that comes down to Reed. So if Reed can show poise, they will win.
I think it goes too with the Storm. I mean, look how they handled the Gamblers, and that game was close for the team that everyone, kind of feels like is bottom of the league. So, I mean, to me, this, like I said, this is the Renegades' one shot. I feel like, take a couple deep shots, see where it goes, and go from there. And, DeMarcus brings up a good point. This is the military game. So I think it's more of also a pride game, too. You're going to have nothing but servicemen around you. And we want to thank everyone in the service for what they do to protect us. But this is going to be a good game. So you're going to have a little extra into it. And I feel like the stadium's going to be rocking. So I feel like the Renegades, this might be their first game all season where it really feels like it's a full crowd compared to how it's been with that stadium too. So I think that also might play into this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as Rick mentioned, it's the final home game for Dallas, but it's not in Dallas. It's about 4.5 hours south in Killeen, Texas, at Fort Hood, formerly Fort Cavazos. You have to be able to get onto a military base. So if you're planning on attending, make sure that you can get on base. Don't just show up with a military ID going, hey, I want to watch this football game. But if you're able to get on base, it is free, and I believe it's a 5,500 seat stadium. It looks kind of like a high school stadium because essentially that's what it was. It's the athletic complex of the base. It should be a full crowd. Technically, it'll be a sellout no matter what happens. It'll be interesting to see what they do with camera angles and things of that nature because it's not traditionally set up for TV broadcasts. And much like they did in Cashman with Vegas, they'll probably have to erect some scaffolding, something like that. I actually I waffled on this pick more than any pick all season long. I think I changed it 3 times before I stuck with, I think I picked the Storm on this one, but we'll have to wait to the picks on that one. You want to say Dallas is due, but I thought that bounce back game was going to be last week, not this week. And now they're facing the Storm or the tropical depression out of Orlando. That is, kind of on the skids themselves. Are they due for a game as well? who knows? That's why I went back and forth with this. I like Beck on the road. I think New Heisel has a chance to make this something special and help turn around the Renegades game season. But I waffled so much on this. Who are we going to see from Dallas? I think Orlando will be Orlando, and it's just going to depend on who shows up for the Renegades.
Yeah. Yeah, tough game.
I want to piggyback on your point about with this being a setup and everything, and with it being Fox and having night and everything. I personally love when they do different games. I mean, I'm a baseball fan. Fox absolutely blows it away with the Field of Dreams. They played basketball on a carrier for the military as well. So I feel like I feel like they know what to do on this, and I definitely feel like they have the thing. And DeMarcus was right. Beck's team usually has a couple of games a year where they come out flat, and I agree this could be one of them. And with this being I'm guessing more military presence than the other games. With this also being the Renegades being the home team, I feel like emotions are going to be high, and this is one of those things. You're not only playing though for your fans, but you're also playing for the service. This is your back hood, or this fort is in their backwoods in their neighborhood. So I feel like it's also going to be one of those pride things which usually when it comes down to something like that, I mean, it's country games, stuff like that also does tend to help the home team.
Yeah, and having these games in these different locations, I think with enough planning, this one was kind of a late ad because they had difficulty with the scheduling at Toyota. So if they do it, like let's say a year, and as soon as the schedule comes out, which we won't know until the soccer teams announce their schedules, but far enough out, I think it could be a destination game. Playing a game like at Tom Benson, in Canton, that would be an incredible game, and I think a lot of people would make the trek out there to do that, whether it's a regular season game or an exhibition game. That's why you have exhibition games. The NFL has been doing that for decades, where they'll have games at different locations to widen their fan base. Go ahead.
If I can, and this goes with what they did with the Derby Bowl, with the Kings. If they now give the Renegades a chance to have a home game more close to Memorial Day or Memorial Day weekend, and to honor the veterans, I think this will not only help them as a league, but also it's I'd say but great PR too. And it's a great way to get out in the community as well. So you're helping build the fan base as well. So I feel like if they keep this going and it goes well, this could definitely be a occurrence happening every almost Memorial Day weekend, especially with this being a spring league.
Definitely, and you can involve other military installations. Play in Colorado, play in Annapolis, play in Upper New York at Mikey Stadium at West Point. That would be an incredible game, even though there's no teams up there, but that would still be an incredible game. I talked to one of our followers by the name of John, and he has a military background as well. And if you're familiar with the military, especially in Texas, Texas has one of the largest bases where this is going to be played at, but you've got people from all over the country. So you get them in this one spot, then they go to, either being stationed at another location or they go back home and they take that love of the game and that interest of the game with them, and that helps spreads it out. So it's a tremendous idea, but a little bit more leeway would be ideal in my opinion.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, Defenders Kings next.
Defenders Kings, Saturday noon on ABC. Rick, do you want to go first with Louisville against DC?
It's a hard part. Like I love Louisville. I've interacted with a lot of their fans. I'm a big fan of the color green. I was huge on Bean, and they're breaking my heart. Where it's like I want to cheer them on. I want to, I hate rooting against them, but this is DC's game to win. This is, now DC's tied up with 5-2, two other teams. This is a bigger game than it was a week ago, especially getting upset. They know a team just came into their house and beat them quite well, and now it's like we're returning the favor. I definitely feel like if they get that running game going, let's not put it in Kiamu's hands. I mean, he could definitely wing it out there, but let's give him a moment to catch his breath, pound the ball, and I feel like the Kings really don't have that good of a rushing defense, and I feel like this might be a key for them to actually get back. They were so in a hole, they had to air it out a little more than normal. So just go back to stick to your run game and go that way.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see if the Kings can take that win and build on it, or if the defenders use it as ammo to say, and I bet they will because they tend to do that. The us against them game they're really good at. So when they feel like everybody's against them, like now they're going to say, hey, they're calling us, out, and they think we've dropped a step. We're going to show them that we can win it all, and then they're going to take it from here on and basically blow everybody out. That's what I think is going to happen because they love that game. But I think that the Kings sneakily could take this one if they keep that knowledge that, hey, we beat them in their hometown. We can certainly beat them at home where we have the fans at our backs. So it'll be interesting. They have the defense for it. Can that offense be consistent 2 weeks in a row? They haven't been so far. Can they do it? If they can, I think they could sneak out a game. But defenders, boy, I'd go 90% defenders are going to take it.
Yeah, going a little bit with what Rick said and what Royce said, it's kind of hard to see anything other than unless DC just steps on their own feet. It's and I hate to say, yeah, it's going to be a blowout, but it's looking that way. DC is the barrier that you shouldn't poke, and the Kings poked them. Will the Kings be able to match them emotionally? And like what Rick was talking about, can DC run the ball, keep that Kings offense off the field? Because you never know when they can light it up. They've got a lot of players. And we're still kind of finding out. Again, this is what, the second or third week after that huge reshuffle when they changed all their line. We still haven't seen too many games of what that line is consistently putting together, whether they've gelled or not, or whether the personnel moves were the right moves to make. So I'm still 50-50 on the Kings. So I'm with DC on this one.
Yeah. All right. We have another. What game is next?
Houston at St. Louis, 3 p.m. Saturday. Anybody want to go first?
I'll go first on this one. I think this is the Luis Perez celebration game. He's going to be able to after a week and a half now of practice with that team, he's going to be able to connect on his guys and have that rhythm down that he was a little rusty on last week. And I think the Gamblers are the team to do that against. So Gamblers' defense isn't terrible, but they aren't the best in the league, and they really are not going to be able to slow the Battlehawks down, especially in St. Louis. Let's be real. How many games, what's their winning percentage at home? I want to say it's like 95%. They almost always win their games at home. So I don't see the Gamblers making a dent in them.
Yeah, and I'm bringing back DeMarcus's original comment about Luis Perez, because he made this comment regarding the first game that he played, but it is very evident, very true. And I think they're going to have a ball. I think A.J. Smith is going to GTFO all night long, and they're going to run up the score as much as they can on Houston. With Houston, we still don't know who is starting. I think Royce kind of advocated for Plumlee to start for the rest of the season, and I'm in favor of that. Deckers, he's had his opportunities, but he's been hurt. Let's see what Plumlee's going to do, because if he's going to make his bones and try to get back into an NFL camp, he needs to do it sooner rather than later. And if he's got the potential to do it, then let's see it.
We'll throw this out. We were talking about like a warm-up game. They run it back the week after, so it's then Battlehawks at Gamblers. I mean, if this was ever a time for Perez to start cooking, it's these two games, because this is, and they end their season. The Battlehawks host Dallas. So if this is their time to really get clicking, it's these three games. And Perez said it best. It's great to have this big of a fan base cheering you on now. instead of, I mean, he's played in that dome multiple times as the enemy, as the away team. So now he has them as a home field. And I mean, that offense is fantastic. So, and I want to go back to what you guys, someone brought up something like this about coaching. If you look at your team, three teams who are 5-2, you have a returning coach, you have another returning coach from a different team, and then you have a coach who's coached in this league before, who has the feeling. So, I mean, those three teams are built for success because they have, I'm not going to say winners, but they have people who know the process. And, especially with Parole to have Perez, this is what he needed. I'm not going to say this was their missing piece, but their defense was fantastic. I believe, Royce, you posted something about defense win championship games, and their stats are fantastic. Now Perez is the missing piece for that offense. And now with the win with everything locked up, it won't be bad if they had to go to Audi Field now.
And they have, not only Prohl is a good coach, he may not have the experience as a head coach, but he's got coaching experience. But he also has AJ Smith and Corey Chamblin as his coordinators, who are amazing. So they can definitely do it. I'm not too worried about them. I think they're going all the way to the championship game. I did want to throw this out there for people to be considering, though, talking about Deckers, because in a couple of years, we know we're going to expand, and guys like Deckers could be playing for a spot on one of those teams, even as a starter. He may not be worthy of a starter on an 8-league team or 8-team league, but on a 10-team league, he could be a starter. So I just want to put that out there for people to be thinking down the road, which guys are bubble guys for that when we started to expand, because guys like that are going to start to be in the consideration for that.
And also throw this out too. You never know if one of these quarterbacks gets signed to a practice. Now, hey, you've had the reps in this league. You know how this league works. And all it takes is one good offensive coordinator to work with. And now he can be a top 5 guy or top 3 guy for quarterback play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of these quarterbacks that are kind of, I don't want to say mid-level, but let's call them 500 quarterbacks, because you never know what you're going to get from them. If they can learn, and it's not even mechanics per se, it's the ability to read the defense and to know where to go with the ball. A lot of them have that tendency to want to go deep all the time. You got to take what the defense gives you. And I believe that was one of the points that Neuheisel made to Reed this week, is take what they give you. Let's go 5-10. Let's stay ahead of the chains, stay on target, and move the ball down the field and score. We don't need chunk plays all the time, But that's another subject. Let's not go too far into that one. Let's talk about the next game. Columbus at Birmingham. Guys, let's a Royce, since you're our Stallions in-house expert, before I start bagging on AJ too much. What are your initial thoughts and impressions on this one?
Tough game to call. Part of me wanted to go with the Aviators because I think they have a more well-rounded game, especially when they run it. But they don't have a great defense, especially their run defense. And I think the Stallions could take advantage of that. And it's at Birmingham. The only reason really I gave it to Birmingham is because they have won 2 in a row. They have DTR leading them, and it's at Birmingham. So I think that is going to take that questionable, like it could go either way, and make that kind of lean the Stallions' way. So I think they're going to come away with another close win, kind of like they've done a couple times this season. It's going to be a good game. I think this is a really fun matchup.
I'll go. I took the Stallions as well. I'm going off of DTR. Like you said, he is a leader. And he has the tools that can definitely make some things happen. I mean, look at that overtime game. He couldn't find a receiver. He took it himself into and to get those 2 points in overtime. So I feel like with everything going on, I feel Columbus does have the tools, but they're not clicking as much for the Stallions. They've won 2 in a row. This is essentially a playoff game for both teams. And like you said, it's in Birmingham. If I was a Stallions fan and I was on the fence, I know, hey, this team's won 2 in a row. This game's at home. This this should be as not a packed house like opening day, but I could see 10,000 easily getting in there, especially with it being a standard time of like a 1 o'clock game on a Sunday. So I mean, if they have that home crowd going, the Stallions are moving. I don't think the Aviators have a chance, unfortunately.
Yeah, with DTR, he's created the best version of this year's Stallions that could possibly be. It's he's carrying the team. There's nothing else you can say about it. He's carrying that team, and without him, they would have fewer wins for sure.
And DTR is kind of built like all the quarterbacks who've done well in this league. Look at PJ Walker with Houston. Look at when the Battlehawks had can't think of his name. He was hurt. Not the Marcus, but the guy he was doing great last year. Mobile quarterback. He got hurt, but he was helping them. So I mean, a mobile quarterback in a spring league, that's really what you need to really help get far. And he has I'm not the vision, but he has the experience where if it's a play's not there, he's going to open it up with his legs. Compared to, I hate to say this, but Corral, he doesn't come off to me as a let's rush for a first down or gain some yards. DTR will take off 20 yards if he knows he has to. And he's come from, he's the Browns. Granted, they're not known for having big game feel, but for him, this is his run. And I mean, if he keeps going, I definitely could see Stallions even make some noise in the playoffs.
Manny Wilkins, is that who you're thinking of?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, and I was waiting for a break in there. I was like, I knew it was Manny, but I couldn't remember his last name.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't see Columbus. I wanted to give them something to look forward to, but DTR he's too much on a roll. That defense is better than what they should get credit for, but I definitely think it's going to be the Stallions this week. Next week's going to be a different story, though.
Yeah. Now the Aviators, if they lose this one, they're in real trouble. So if they are going to win, it's because they are playing for their life, and they really are. They're playing for their playoff hopes. So
it's interesting too. This is another matchup where they also run it back next week. Next week, Stallions go to Aviator. So it's very interesting that this late in the season, you're having double matchups. Like you have, so they run this back week 9 into 10, you have the Storm and Defenders again. So it's really interesting how the schedule makers kind of made the last, 4 weeks of the season, because you're having back-to-backs, and you never know the way this playoff system is. You might play them back-to-back, and maybe in 2 weeks, guess what? You're playing each other again.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
Go ahead.
When I think about, I have this visual in my head when they're putting these schedules together. If you've ever watched like Peyton's Place, or there's ESPN has done some of these where they go behind the scenes of the NFL making these schedules, and they have these little magnetic cards they stick on the wall to symbolize certain games and things of that nature. I feel like the UFL had it all planned out, and then right before they were going to announce it, they knocked it on the floor and then just kind of threw it back there real quick. With the way that these schedule is, these back-to-backs are just insane. I hope they get it fixed next year. I think part of it was because of Rapoli wanting certain games on certain times, and for like Derby week, he wanted that specific matchup. Well, on a natural schedule, maybe that didn't follow that way, so they had to move some things. And it's more than one team. It's a lot of teams. And that's something that desperately needs to be fixed, because playing one team twice at the beginning of the season and then not playing that another team until the end of the season, playing them twice, it makes a parity kind of watered down. I don't like it. I think they need to fix that.
This is almost what happens when you have it as conference play and not divisions. If it was divisions, you have 3 teams you're definitely facing twice. You don't see that. It's a toss-up. It's an absolute toss-up. But, if all it takes is one good Excel sheet, you put everything down, let's go with the soccer stadiums first, who's filled up one, and go from there. when I did my schedule prediction. So I think, and what you're saying is if they do where it's standard times like 1 and 4 o'clock, there might be able to work on it. And hey, I hate to say this, I'm a Mets fan. I don't know if the Mets are playing next year with baseball. So there may be a baseball strike that might completely change how UFL does it. And then the hard part is UFL might make a schedule for a strike and then say they do play baseball, and now they have to recycle and do what they did now. So I think, if you have a crystal ball, it might tell you a couple different answers. So
Yeah.
Yeah, at least this time they'll have a full off season to prepare, as opposed to whatever happened last season. With the moving around of teams and trying to throw. I think they had 90 days essentially to finish that schedule to get it to where it's at now. If we're not going to go, I could do a whole episode on how I feel like they rushed some of the things and we're kind of paying the price for that now. But let's move on to power rankings, guys. I have not seen these yet. I knew it was going to be something interesting. It came down to the last minute. So we're going to start with last week's power rankings before we move on to this week's power rankings. Last week, DC was on top, followed by St. Louis, Columbus, oddly enough, Birmingham, Orlando, Dallas, Louisville, and Houston. So let's see who's moved up and who's moved down this week. Week 8, and I haven't seen these, so I'm going to take a second to kind of look at these. St. Louis, number 1 again. DC slid down to number 2. Orlando's number 3. Louisville is number 4. Sorry. So that's our final playoff spot. So that's how we had them ranked. Birmingham, I think they're finally ranked where they need to be, as well as Columbus at 6, Houston at 7, and Dallas at 8. Wow. Look at how the mighty have fallen, guys. Dallas at 8 when they started so hot at number 1. What are your takes on these guys? What are your opinions on these power rankings?
I think Zom bribed a couple people, because Zom was saying Dallas is 8, and the fact that they are 8 here, it really shows how they fall. And to me, the biggest are 3 and 4. You have 2 teams who jumped up a couple of spots. And who would have thought that Louisville, who was 7 in our rankings last week, jumped up to 4 by upsetting what we all thought was the team to run away with it. So it just goes to show how anything can happen, and that will definitely change your where you're projected to finish in this league.
Yeah,
Royce,
I think to me it's tough to see Orlando that high based on the way they played last week. But honestly, overall, they've earned it throughout the year. But I think I dropped them a little bit. Well, did I have? I guess maybe I had them in that high. It's tough. There's nobody to me is earning a shot at that 1 or 2 spot outside of DC and St. Louis. Mm-hmm. They're locked in, and nobody's even coming close, I don't think. So, but boy, that 3 through 6 spot has just moved around so much this year. It's hard to follow. But it's kind of cool. I think you can make a case for any of those to be either 3, 4, 5, 6. Honestly, those 4 teams right there in 3 through 6, 1 week they're good, 1 week they're bad. None of them are consistent. Both of them, or all 4 of them, have some good qualities. So it's so hard to predict these power rankings. But really, based on what they all did last week, I think this is a pretty good look at it.
I'm shocked that Birmingham wins. They're on a 2-game winning streak, yet they dropped to 5th, just the way how everyone had them. To me, that was a shocker.
That's kind of crazy, huh?
And it's crazy because, there's 5 of us, so each vote is weighted a little bit. But, I had in week 7, the power rankings had Birmingham and Columbus, I believe, at 3 and 4, and now they're at 5 and 6. And I think that's where I felt comfortable with them last week, and it's kind of bared out. And I had the same exact internal conversation that Royce just had right now about Orlando. It's like we want them. They're obviously playoff potential team. can you rank them lower than a non-playoff team, or do they deserve that 4 spot since they're a little bit closer to clinching than say whoever ends up at 4? It's an interesting debate for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll throw this out. Say right now we have 3 5-2 teams. Only 2 of those teams are going to have a home game.
Yeah.
So if Orlando got hot in Houston, I bet they're hoping that DC finishes 1 because I think he wants to go to the Dome. But it'll be definitely interesting to see where Orlando goes because I don't know how they're gonna handle playoff matchups with television and everything. But can you imagine if it's Orlando at St. Louis in the playoffs?
That'll be fun. That'll be interesting. Yeah, it's going back to St. Louis.
And that's another interesting aspect that I kind of started thinking about last week. All these teams are scrambling to get that number 4 spot, and oh, by the way, you got to go at whoever's number 1 and play there after struggling and trying to get into the playoffs. Your reward is, oh yeah, you got to go face the best team at their place, whoever that ends up being. The last thing I wanted to mention about this was Dallas. I don't think they're 8, and they haven't been great, but I don't think they're 8. I think they deserve a little bit higher. It is power rankings and it's personal opinion, but wow, how many people had to vote for them to be 8? Quite a few, at least 3 people had to vote for them to be in the 8 spot for them to actually wind up there.
This is their losses in a row.
Yeah.
4 losses in a row. So
yeah,
just I couldn't put them anywhere else after losing 4 in a row.
Hey,
yeah.
I will openly say this. I think their new mascot needs to be Tom Petty because they're free falling.
I will get with the Banditos and see if they can rename Billy into Tom Petty and go with that, And if y'all aren't familiar, that's the mascot who the Banditos dropped off the back of that ATV last year coming into the game. But we won't talk about Billy anymore. We don't talk about Billy. Let's move on to week 7, our pick results, and how we did. I was terrible. I was 2-2. I stayed. I let Roy sneak in there, and he got a 3-1 and caught up to me. Rick is at 17-11, 1 game behind. DeMarcus is. And I was talking to DeMarcus about this. He's like, oh, I can't let you guys catch up. I was like, you're so far. There's 12 regular season games left with a 3-game advantage. Unless he really just goes wild, we're not going to catch him. Overall, AFP as a panel is 18-10. Anybody want to talk about their picks?
No.
That big red mark in the middle is hurt. We all got hurt by the same game. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy with the way the picks are because most of the time we are picking the same teams, which really makes it interesting. Because it's yet to be where it's like with 5 of us. It's yet to be like a 3-on-2 and everyone's on the fence. It's either one team A or B. And to see, like with DC, the red X's and everything, it's interesting. I'm looking forward to now. We have some basically playing games. The next 3 weeks, I think these are going to get exciting with the way our picks are, and then you got the playoffs, which is going to make it even harder. So it's definitely getting there, and I think DeMarcus might be a little nervous.
Yeah, hey, I managed to sneak Dallas in there, and they almost pulled it off. Can you imagine if they had actually won, and everybody else would have had red X's? I'd have been closer to catching DeMarcus. But I think with this time of the year, we're going to start seeing different picks. Maybe not a lot, but you might see some people taking flyers because with playoff implications, do playoffs weigh into your picks, guys? When you're making these picks, do you think about, okay, they need this game, or is it just at that one moment in this week, we're going to look at this week? Guys, what are your thoughts about picking?
It's case in point. I mean, like with DC, it's like, we just lost on our field, on our home field, and we're playing the same team. We're going to run it back now, and we're going to beat them at their home. And then you have games where it's like you have a chance to really, do some damage, and you have teams who look like they're on the slide down. So it's like, do you take the team, or like with the first game we have the Storm against the Renegades? You have two teams who past 3 weeks really haven't shown it. So now we're trying to figure out which team. It's pick your poison. Which one are you going to take?
But the cool thing about this league, every single game matters all season long.
Mhm.
And really, right now, after 7 weeks, every single team still is vying for a playoff spot. That's crazy, but that shows you the importance of every single game. So I think they're not just resting on their laurels, although DC looked like it last week. This week, they're going to show up. So I think it's a fun league just for that aspect, because every single game, nobody's taking a game lightly. Nobody's thinking, oh, I'm just going to rest, do the basketball thing and rest this one out. I think they're all going hard, and they're playing for themselves.
That might be why the schedule makers ran it with back-to-backs and a couple teams, because now it's like you might play them next week, you might play them in the playoffs, where I'm not going to say they tank in different sports, but I mean, in the playoffs, you usually rest your starters the last week and everything. The way this is going, I don't see any team resting week 10, because no one has that safe of a lead to say, hey, I mean, we have 3 teams tied at 5-2. That leaves almost one spot right now left, and those are about 1 or 2 games apart. I mean, so it's definitely to the point, and that's what makes this exciting, because I'm a Ravens fan. I've been where it's like, all right, well, we're in the playoffs, we're going to rest our people. Every NFL team usually does that. This league does not really give the advantage, and that's, I think, makes it more exciting.
Agreed. Yeah, even down to game 10, you're still going for home field advantage. Even if you're DC or St. Louis, you still want to win that last game to lock in the home field advantage.
Or Orlando. I mean, they were complaining about the heat. Imagine having the Battlehawks come down, a dome team go down to deal with the heat of Orlando, play a game. I mean, I don't know how Texas is right now, but to me, Orlando, I think, would be a lot hotter. And you get it. That stadium has some shape, but not too much. That's definitely a training thing, where a lot of these teams, I think, they're playing at practicing at different spots in Texas. I don't know, Mike, you probably know this better with the stadiums they use there, but you might have more protection and everything too. So, I mean, this is definitely going to be more interesting.
Yeah, a couple of the teams practice at high school facilities. Now, that being said, this is Texas, so those are indoor facilities. They do have outdoor facilities they can use, but yeah, in Texas, our high schools have indoor facilities that the UFL uses up in that area, in those areas. They're all spread out through the Metroplex. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to get to our week 8 picks and see how, because I'm the one who puts them together, and they changed a little bit. And I know I hemmed and hawed on some of these picks, so I can't wait to see our 8 picks, week 8 picks. Can't talk today.
Well, I see you're still going with the Renegades, so you're consistent. I like that.
Oh, wait, that says week 7. Are we?
Yep. I guess when I edited, I messed that part up, but I will fix that in the future. So I'll get that done.
So this is truly for week 8, though, right?
This is for week 8. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, never mind. I might not have the right slide up.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like it might be right. I don't know.
No, those are the ones from.
Yeah, those are the same.
Yep. So yeah, those are the correct ones. I just I had a boo-boo and it slipped past me because it was late and I was tired. But anyway, the games are still the same. Columbus at St. Louis, guys. Every one of us took St. Louis. Does anybody want to elaborate on their pick a little bit?
Hold on. I thought we already did. Yeah, these are the week 7 games. Those are all the week.
Yeah, I'm gonna post them. Bear with me.
Okay, so did I send you the wrong one, or did we upload the wrong one?
You sent me 2 different ones. I went with the first one.
Oh, I know what happened. It's the way it's saved. Let's not have this conversation live. We can talk about that later, about our mishaps and our boo-boos. But so I really thought I really thought it might have been me because I put it together kind of late, and sometimes I need another pair of eyes to look at it before I publish it. I probably should have done that, but I'm trying to remember the schedule off the top of my head. Friday
I've got it pulled
night
up,
is
Mike.
okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Royce.
So we've got Orlando at Dallas Friday night. Now the challenge is who picked who. I picked Dallas for the upset, and I know a couple other people did too. But you picked the Storm, you think, Mike?
I believe I picked the Storm. I'm going to try to find the picks to resend them to Rick right now, or at least I can look at them. And
while you're doing that,
from
I'll run
there.
through the games, and that way people can not be too bored. So the game lineups for Week 8 are Orlando at Dallas. Then we've got DC on Saturday at Louisville. Another Saturday game is the Gamblers at St. Louis. And then the Aviators on Sunday at Birmingham. So the home teams are Dallas, Louisville, St. Louis, and Birmingham.
Okay, so I've got the picks up on my other screen. Rick, did you want me to send them to you, or we're going to be able to get them in right now? There they are. Sweet.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, Royce, for filling in.
Sure.
For vamping for us. Let me get back to where I was at so I can get back to where I need to be. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Minor technical glitch. I'm sure all of our fans are okay with this.
Yeah, Run 68 Bone says, "Let's go, come get some" in the chat. Yeah, he sees DC, and DC is definitely picked by all yet again. Even though we all picked him last week, we're still picking him again. So,
okay, so I'm caught up now. So yeah, I like I told you, I hemmed and hawed on Orlando. I really, really, really wanted to pick Dallas, but I just, I think Dallas, if they've had their last gasp, this might be it. I really want them to try to make the playoffs, but I don't know. I think something about that makes me feel like Beck's going to have that team ready to go. DC, everybody went with DC across the board. Everybody's pretty much going to expect a blowout. Anybody else not expecting a blowout in DC versus the Kings?
I actually feel like it's going to be a shootout more than a blowout. I feel like the Kings know what they have to do to win, and I feel like the defenders know what they have to do as well. So I feel like with the turnaround now, it's a Saturday game. I mean, think of it: the teams had to go from DC, fly down to Dallas, and now they're flying back out to Louisville. So it's not like it's a light flight. So this should be I'm hoping for a shootout, especially with it being noon. I think it will catch some eyes. I mean, if you look, you had the Kings put up 4 rushing touchdowns a couple games ago. You've had DC go. So I feel like these defenses, they might know what's coming, but I feel like these offenses might be able to push through that. I'm hoping for a good, 42-40 kind of game. Make it like Tecmo Super Bowl.
I'm going 28-18. I think it's going to be a little tighter. I think the defenses, since they just played them last week, they kind of know their tendencies. So I think it's going to be a little lower scoring, 28-18 kind of game.
And I am terrible at picking the actual score in UFL games. I don't know why. I think I need personally more time to go and look at that. I'm a little bit better with the NFL, but as far as the UFL, picking the actual accurate score, can't do it. I'm terrible. With DC and the Kings, I don't know. I like their chances more with Rodgers versus Bean. And we had talked about the field general versus a quarterback. And I think he could have a solid game. But DC is just going to be, unless they just come out flat and uninterested, I think it's going to be DC. Houston at St. Louis, guys. Everyone was, again, picked St. Louis with the quarterback musical chairs going on in Houston. We're not even sure who's starting. And the home debut of Luis Perez in the Battle Dome. Guys, this was too easy. But anyone want to add some thoughts onto that pick?
No.
Everybody's
like,
easiest pick of the week.
Of course, we're all saying that, and odds are, we're going to have one of these games where we all pick the same, and it's going to be red X's all the way through.
True.
So I don't know. We'll see. But I think St. Louis has got this one pretty much in the bag. But here's one that I thought that, again, I was on the fence about Columbus at Birmingham. Not as much as I was against Orlando and Dallas, but I was on the fence with this one. I went ahead and picked Birmingham. The only one who didn't was DeMarcus, and DeMarcus is out in front of us, so either he's playing with house money or he knows something we don't know. Guys, what are your thoughts on Birmingham versus Columbus?
Well, if you asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said Columbus wins the game, but they've changed that in in Birmingham with DTR. So the run game could make the difference if Columbus sticks to it and they can get some good stops, but I don't see that happening. I think the Stallions have it.
I think the Stallions have the hot hand, especially with DTR leading the way. I feel like out of the leaders, he's the leader of both teams. I feel like they're still trying to figure out who's the leader for Columbus. I definitely feel like they are playing better with Haley. Continues his royal return, 100%. Run 68 bone, and I definitely feel like the Stallions have it in them to keep it going. They're going to run it back as well. So this is their chance to really knock Columbus out of the park. And then that's one less team. I mean, and I'll show you guys something shortly that I put together real quick. And it's crazy to see with the records, with the rankings and everything. That's almost like our game of the week. So it might be the hardest one to pick, but I definitely feel like the Stallions can do it. I agree. Stallions are hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for that reason, I went ahead and picked the Stallions, even though it's so hard for me to pick the Stallions. I just don't want them to win. I just don't like them. Call it leftover Brahma resentment. I just don't like the Stallions or the Battlehawks. They're my natural hated rival, even though I don't have a team anymore. Guys, any thoughts on these picks before we move on? And of course, we're all waiting on Zom. Zom will putting out his video shortly, and when he get his picks in, I will post them, and I try to post them before we get into the games starting Friday night. So expect to see that post with Zom's picks on it shortly. All right, the United Bowl playoffs, guys. Oof, this is what we've all been waiting for, and man, it came up quick. We've only been into the season 2 months, and we're talking about playoffs.
So I want to show you guys something. So I took the rankings and I kind of put where their records are, so we kind of see it a little better, and it just gives more of a shocker to see that our 8th out of our power rankings is 3 and 4, and 6 and 7 are 2 and 5 teams.
And that's why I had Dallas higher, but I guess the hate for Dallas was so strong. And Royce, don't put those 4 fingers up again. I saw them the first time.
And this is something also too. So I took the rankings and put it together. So like I said, your Columbus against the Stallions, that's your 6-5. So I mean that's huge. This is probably your biggest matchup because you have. I mean, if you look at the matchups ahead of it, you have 2-4-2 with the defenders against Louisville. Their records speak a little differently than our rankings, so that definitely adds to that. And there is clinching scenarios too for this weekend, like with the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Any win by Orlando, St. Louis, or DC clinches this playoff spot for all 3.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a good post. I'm glad the UFL put that out. It's real succinct. It lets you know where you stand. Any win by Orlando, St. Louis, or DC will clinch a playoff spot for all 3, which means the last 2 weeks of the season, we might see some of the backups getting some reps and stuff like that once these teams clinch. But if your team is not one of those 3 teams, Zom Fox did a wonderful video with playoff implications for each and every single team. So I highly recommend checking that out. I wish he could have been on tonight to explain that, but it's a very good video. It's in depth. It tells you the road and the path for each of these teams to succeed. So if your team is not on on this list, go check out that video and see what they need to do so you know who to cheer for so your team gets in the playoffs.
Yep. Cool. And I agree with the comments there that Redmond is very likable, and it would be nice to see Louisville make the playoffs, but I don't know if they've got the consistency to do it. They just haven't been consistent all year.
Yeah, I like Redmond, but I think he, Ginn, and AJ, well, not so much AJ, because AJ has at least played in the UFL, are unfamiliar with the UFL and the mechanics of some of the basic stuff, the challenges, going for 2 or 3, stuff like that. They're going to learn the hard way. And I was thinking about that. Most of us, I don't know about you guys, but I've refined a lot of my clock management through playing Madden. Maybe there needs to be a UFL Madden or a UFL version of that so they can get used to these scenarios when you want to use your timeouts and when you want to go for 3 and stuff like that. Guys, what do you think?
Take my money. Yes. I'd love it if they were.
Hey, I will say this as one who's made different tech modes for the UFL. The hard part is because the rosters consistently change, it makes it quite difficult.
Mm-hmm. True.
Well, not necessarily. Well, my pitch was not necessarily with the game specific rosters that like Madden has now, but just the fundamentals of the running clock and when to use challenges and timeouts and when to go for 1 or 2. I dislike the kicking of the single extra point. I think everything should be a 2 or a 3. It would make the games way more interesting. That's just my personal opinion.
And I agree with you. It kind of did take it away because, like, I love when you could go for a 1 point, a 2, or a 3, and you had to go for it. The kick is a lot easier, and look at overtime. A QB sneak. You think you got it, you can't. There's no tush push. Who knows? Maybe they were trying to go with the kick because they kind of more, they did put an emphasis on the field goal kicking and everything. So, I mean, if they want kickers who can, ball out, might as well have them kick an extra point, and some of them though can't even make an extra point, so it gets a little scary.
You know what's been
to
fun?
that point.
I think watching how many times we've had to go for it as a league on 4th down this year has been awesome to watch because you don't get that in the NFL.
Yeah. So I call those forced downs because you're forced to go for it.
Yeah.
But where was I going? I had another point before that one popped into my head. But kick the extra points are boring. Anyway, let's move on.
All right. There we go. Yep. I agree with that comment.
All right.
2 or 3. Yeah.
And that was from Runbone68, guys. He is one of our followers. He follows us on all of our platforms. Get used to that name, and we'll introduce you to him. Maybe, guys, stick around because we might have a new panelist or 2 in the pipeline. But any thoughts, guys? Final thoughts? Wrap up? Anything else you want to bring up?
No, just pop your popcorn early because I think this is where the season's going to get good. These 3 weeks are playoff games before the playoffs even start. And if the 3 teams win who clinch, you're going to have 5 teams fighting for 1 spot for the rest of the season. Buckle up.
Love it.
Yep. And of course, when these games are over, it'll be a little bit more clear with 2 games left, which of those teams are going to be vying for that final spot to be the sacrificial lamb to DC or St. Louis.
And think of this too. If Orlando, if St. Louis, and if DC wins, that Sunday game between the Stallions and the Aviators is now magnified because now they know, hey, if whoever wins this definitely has a better shot now.
It's getting good, guys. It's getting good. All right. If anybody doesn't have anything else to add, let's wrap up the show. Great show again tonight, guys, as usual. Always fun to talk to you guys and talk shop and talk football. If you're watching or you're listening, we are just fans. We just get together and talk shop, and we're just like-minded individuals who do the research, do the work, and when we say something, we want to have some value to it, not just being out here screaming random opinions at people. So thank everybody for watching. Join us next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Central, anywhere you see this. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Guys, I'm good for the night. Thank you guys for watching. If anybody else has anything to say.
Nope. Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy.
All right, Rick, send us home.